So quite a lot of learnings. Again, I come from a very hardcore functional background. Uh, Heard a lot of new terminologies like Spark, Storm, Hadoop, HANA. I know only the spellings of each of these, to be very honest. I don't know how they work. Um, but I come from a hardcore functional background. So what I'm going to cover today is a very general topic, which is the ultimate goal of any client, which is a customer experience has to be as delightful as possible. Now, one of you had raised the question saying, what do I do with call center analytics? Everything that companies are striving to achieve today is to make the end customers' life happier, easier, and ensure that they keep coming back and asking for more services. So today what we're going to cover here is a topic called customer experience management. Although the topic sounds very simple and easier to digest, it has got its own nitty-gritties. It is a huge task. Everybody might be familiar today with designations like CEO, CMO, CIO, CXO. I'm not sure how many of you have actually come across this new designation which very mature organizations are now trying to implement, which is CEMO, a Customer Experience Management Officer, who reports directly into the CEO and is responsible for trying to address at least 2 to 3 use cases each year to ensure that the business is successful and staying ahead of the competition in terms of achieving customer delight. Okay, just to give an overview, we spoke a lot about analytics. We heard that analytics as a brand name is not yet completely demystified. Everybody has their own versions. But again, whether it is big data, small data, or any kind of data, even collected visually or manually, is still a piece of information which everybody wants to analyze to ensure that they stay ahead of the competition. So it's just a marketing gimmick, which is driving growth in a saturated and a limited budget market. Now, companies decades back used to thrive in storing and collecting huge amounts of data. That is because the data storage was expensive and everybody said it's gold mine, start collecting it. They collected it for decades, but until 4 or 5 years back, nobody started even utilizing it. That's the reason why one of the presenters mentioned as one of the challenges is we have tons of data, but we don't know what to do. So today, everybody is trying to do something with their data, but again, it can be as open-ended and challenging. And unless you extract meaningful information, nothing can be termed out of it. A simple example, I don't know how many of you have heard, there is a relationship which is generated out of a predictive model, which says height of an individual increases when he wears more brighter color shirts. Does it sound reasonable to anybody over here? So you can imagine, that is because, can you challenge the technical model? Absolutely no. That a technical model has done what it is supposed to do. But the most important aspect of that is somebody who was trying to analyze that insight coming out of that model was not able to make it actionable. What do I do? Just to increase the height of an individual, I start making more brighter shirts? No. So when we speak about big data, when we speak about small data, for me, data in Excel which runs beyond 65,000 rows is big data, because it stops my processing time, it just hangs for hours together. So utilize main data, and that is the most important aspect of where analytics is going. It's all about numbers, it's all about extracting something from an underlying data. Again, offering almost near real-time analytic applications. Now this is becoming more and more prominent because all the tools, all the technologies, the mobile apps that are getting introduced in today's markets are all about making an end user's life easy and ensuring that he gets delighted on the spur of the moment just because of a lot of information being analyzed on his background. again, we've spoken a lot about analytics, but again, since it's a new buzzword in the market, just like big data, there is unprecedented growth opportunities in the field of analytics. Now, whether it is a data scientist, whether you are a software developer for analytics, whether you're a mobile app developer which collects data and analyzes, everything is just in the niche as of today. So these are the few areas because of which there is humongous demand for analytics. Again, so we spoke about getting the end customer delighted. So what is customer experience management? Primarily, it revolves around three keywords, which is a customer, the context of his interactions. Now, what do I mean by this context of his interactions? We saw that there is a huge buzz around social media, analyzing social media data, sentiment analysis, hearing about what the customers are speaking using a voice software, etc. Now, how do you decipher the meaningful information from this voice data? Now, that is exactly where all your big data technologies and softwares come into picture, because every time the context need not be relevant to make an end decision. It can be a go, which is I call up my personal relationship manager and ask for a help. Now, that context is very different than me calling him up and making a complaint against my existing loan or existing relationship. So it's all about organizations trying to understand what the customer is talking, what is he buying, what is he trying to, what demographic characteristics does he have, on what context, on which channels is he using, and then make meaningful decision to make personalized offers for that particular customer. So this is exactly the end goal. You see all those mobile apps, campaign management offers, or any media related ads, everything boils down to some kind of customer data being analyzed. I don't know how many of you have actually read Facebook's terms and conditions page completely before accepting it. Exactly. So if somebody has been strict enough in reading that and actually making sense of every statement that is in there, would realize how dangerous Facebook can be in terms of utilizing your information. Although, like somebody spoke about, it can be a disruptive versus it can be an additive usage of your data. But at the same time, still a lot of personal information is being collected. So what is it used for could be a personalized offers. How many of you actually referred or were following the news because of from released by Target, the big retailer Target? So you can imagine how big, the company was doing its own work, the research, the data scientist was doing its own work, but at the end of the day, the outcome of that was more disruptive for the individual who actually received the offer letter. So it can be disruptive, it can be additive, but at the same time, it could be more meaningful, it could be more useful for the organization to make tactical decisions. Why do we even thrive on this term, customer experience management? Some key research findings over here. 70% of the customers' purchase decisions are based on how they feel they are treated. This is actually an outcome of a retailer doing a survey on all the customers that actually come to his store and purchase. So this is one of the reasons. Today, online versus offline, there is a huge challenge. Where to buy, what to buy, should I sit at home and just enjoy my shopping behavior? All those things are getting added. But at the same time, today, most of us purchase a product based on some reviews or some ratings provided to us by the other customers. Again, key questions to answer using customer experiences. First and foremost, one of the key things which every organization is trying to achieve in 2015 is trying to understand who are my shoppers, where do they buy, what do they buy, how do they buy. Key facets of customer experience management. Now, this covers the entire gamut of a customer experience management strategy. The first is a single view, understanding who are my customers. Now, this question can be very simple. Now, Unicom can question us, who are my customers, who is the audience? Now, here there is a variety of individuals coming from different backgrounds. But if you look at it from an organizational standpoint, somebody explained today, marketing has its own analyst, supply chain has its own analyst, and they're all catering to the end customers in some form or the other. But when we try to understand what is a single view, just like your master data management, I need to understand whether he is a high value customer from a marketing standpoint, but a low value customer from a supply chain standpoint. So there are implications on the end results or the decision making because of having a single view of a particular customer. By understanding that, what do the organizations do next, which is personalization, which is a kind of strategy. Now, how do I personalize and identify more customers who belong to these cases? So that's the strategy which organizations are trying to achieve second. Followed by that, which is now, again, implementation has to be cost effective and cannot be on a huge population base. So you go with the micro segmentation. You try to define your customer segments and make the personalization strategy into execution. And the last but not the least, the most important one, which is predicting. Now, once I have identified a case, how do I ensure that I proactively automate the whole process and ensure that these situations, even if they come up in the future, how do I address them proactively and take corrective actions against those? What are the different tools available in the market? There are tons of tools. Again, customer experience management, if you can visualize it, it's not just one aspect of it. Now, a simple example which everybody quotes is order to cash. When you make a purchase online versus the time it takes to get it delivered to your doorstep. Now that process, if it is not automated, not streamlined, can lead to disasters for the organization. So now getting that process automated requires good amount of data crunching and a sophisticated tool. So data aggregators, everybody aware of a tool called Watson, a huge success for IBM. So IBM is one of the key players when it comes to data aggregators. It's a single view of customer, one version of truth, which is what we spoke about, which is ultimately it's a brilliant exploratory analysis which tells you and gives you one version of a customer. This is Vijay, he works with Analytic Edge, he stays here, he uses his mobile network during evenings more than in the morning, etc., etc. So all that piece of information is available in that data aggregator. Secondly, what is it? It's CEM specialists. So CEM specialists are now becoming more and more channel specific. At the click of a button on your mobile phone, you actually get your service delivered. Uber is one classic example of a mobile application where the user experience is pretty easy. Third one is business process management. Again, order to cash is what we spoke. Unless that process is streamlined and you keep on automating it, you might not be able to achieve the end goal. And the last one is campaign management, which is inbound marketing also. Once I identify who my value customers are, what kind of offers do I release and how quickly can I release those, almost near real time. So again, analytical life cycle, one of the case studies which we tried and implemented for an organization. We tried to develop an analytical life cycle for the team, and this is the life cycle. So first question is understanding customers. All the names, all the jargons written on the rectangular boxes are all the names of analytical solutions. Now this is my world, just like how we know Storm, Spark, etc. So these are few jargons which are publicly available in the industry or in the market from the borrowed from the academic literature. If you search on Google on trip segmentation or behavioral segmentation, you'll exactly know what they mean. If you search on the first cycle is understanding customers, you look at the loop here. Acquiring customers, then trying to drive us to frequent purchase, which is basically market basket. Everybody got a shock when this research was released that men who go to purchase beer actually end up buying diapers. If the research would not have revealed that, who would trust it? Right? But it turned out to be a brilliant cross-merchandising strategy for every retailer in the future. While working with Coke, we realized that the best sales they ever realized in 2012 was when the prices of onions was skyrocketingly high, and they had promoted Coke with 1 kg of onions. So that was their best sales that they had recorded in India. So nobody could ever sense that from the data. It is an intuitional analysis sometimes. Then path to purchase. Everybody aware of all these attribution modeling from Google Analytics, etc. The terminologies are very straightforward to understand. It is last click. But how do you know if the last click was the one which has driven the purchase? He would have been told by somebody saying, why don't you go and try this website? So that would have been the motivator for him to come to the website and purchase it. Mostly, if you look at Google Analytics, etc., they do path to purchase using attribution models, and they are pretty straightforward models because there is no level of art involved in that. There is a humongous amount of research going on in this area. It's not just a direct relationship to one last click. There are a lot of indirect channels also which affect a customer's purchase, and that's what we try to analyze over here. IPL or any kind of TV shows that go on, there is a humongous amount of advertisements that you come across. Think about it from one standpoint. Have you actually seen those ads and walked into the store the next day to purchase that product? No. Most of it is only to drive awareness. But what drives your purchase when you go to a store is whether it is on discount, whether it is being reviewed and rated good by other people, etc. So it's an on-demand purchase decision. And last but not the least, which is customer loyalty. That's the end goal, which is now I have followed this loop. I have defined who my loyal customers are, who my inactive customers are. Now, what should be my strategy, personalization strategy to ensure that I attract more customers, make them loyal, and retain them in the long run. Again, this is the Near Real Insights framework. Again, there are different tools that we had used for this, but this is by and large a standard analytical framework that goes to deploy any solution. If there are first system inputs, whether they come from one source or whether they come from disparate sources, end of the day you have to integrate all of those and create an analytical engine, which is exactly where your processing of algorithms happens. Now, data scientists work on this part. By and large, there are a lot of available packages like R or SAS or SPSS, Python, where all these libraries are predefined. So you just need to customize it depending on your situation, but otherwise, by and large, you can use those as is and run the algorithms. The only requirement you need, a statistical package, the only need for a statistical package is to optimize and get the final values. Besides that, everything else is what you know of the domain, what you know of the data, and what you can quote to get insights. So this is where the analytical engine is set up. And finally, then the organization generates periodic reports or long-term decisions, solutions, etc., depending on what their implementations are in this loop. Again, wear a statistician's hat. We spoke about data scientists, PhDs, equations, etc. These are a few solutions which are publicly available literatures, are used very heavily in trying to solve your statistical problems. So statistics does not come in isolation. You need to have a domain knowledge coupled with that to be able to solve a problem and create a solution which the client is happy about. Also, you might encounter in most of these solutions, the client is usually not very happy with the output that they get. That is primarily because some things don't make sense. Like I gave you an example about the height of an individual and write a shirts. Machine learning algorithms can give you meaningless results like that. But an analyst has to sit on top of it, analyze that, and see if there is a weightage for that kind of an analysis for the business and tweak it.